Alrighty, today we are going to review for our Unit 2 test, which is on equations and inequalities. So let's look at number 1. We are going to leave the left side alone since there's only 2 terms there and they are not like terms. Then on the right side, because I see parentheses, we are going to distribute. 1/2 times 2x is just 1x, and 1/2 times 6 is 3. Remember, use the calculator because most of us do not know this off the top of our head. Now, I do not want that 1x there, so I'm going to subtract 1x. Subtract 1x. I will use my calculator. 7/8 minus 1 gets us -1/8 x. Bring down the -3/4 is less than 3. Then I want to get rid of that 3/4, so I'm going to add 3/4 to both sides. Add 3/4 to both sides, and I get -1/8x is less than 3 plus 3/4 gets me 15/4. Then I'm going to divide and get rid of the 1/8. Because I'm dividing by a fraction that is negative, I have to flip my symbol. Any number that you are dividing by when it is negative, you flip the sign. -1/8, and that gets me -30. Just a quick review, if you were going to graph this, this would be an open circle going to the right. All right. Number 2, same exact concept, just more fractions. 1/2 times x is 1/2 x. 1/2 times 4 is 2 minus 3/4. Before I move on to the next side, I want to combine like terms. There's no other x term, but I do have the 2 minus 3/4, which gets me 5/4 is less than 3 times 1/2 x is 3/2x, and 3 times -2 is -6. All right, we're going to bring our x's to one side. We are going to subtract 3/2 x, subtract 3/2 x. So we have 1/2 minus 3/2. That gets us -1 x. Plus 5/4 is less than -6. I am now going to subtract the 5/4, and I get -1x is less than -6 minus 5/4 is -29/4. I don't want the -1 there, so I'm going to divide by a -1 on both sides. And I get x is greater than 29/4. I made sure to flip my sign since I was dividing by that negative number. Alrighty, let's go ahead and look at number 3. -2 times 2y is -4y. -2 times -9 is +18. Is greater than or equal to 4. Distribute this -5. -5 times y is -5y. -5 times -2 is +10. Then 4 plus 10 is 14 minus 5y. Or you could write -5y plus 14. Either one is fine. I don't want my y on both sides, so I'm going to add 5y to both sides. -4y plus 5y is 1y, plus 18 is greater than or equal to 14. To get rid of the plus 18, I'm going to subtract 18 on both sides, and I get 1y is greater than or equal to -4. And you could just erase that 1. It doesn't make a difference. Alrighty. So I have -4. I'll put a few numbers above and a few numbers below. At -4, because it is a greater than or equal to symbol, I will shade in the circle, and I will point it to the right. which is pointing in the same direction of the inequality symbol. And in interval notation, we are starting at -4. -4 gets a square bracket since we are equal to. It has the line underneath, so make your line look like a square bracket, and it is going towards positive infinity. You do not know what number is included with positive infinity, so we make a parenthesis. Number 4, we want x only on one side, so let's subtract 1x, subtract 1x. We have 2. Now let's see, what is 4 over 9 minus 1? We get -5 over 9x is greater than or equal to 4. To get rid of the 2, we are going to subtract 2 on both sides. We get -5 over 9x is greater than or equal to 2. We want to get rid of that -5 over 9. So we are going to have x. We have to flip our symbol since we are dividing by a negative. And we are doing 2 divided by -5 over 9, which gets us -18 over 5. And make sure you flip your symbol since you did divide by a negative number. All right, number 5 is a little review from Unit 1. It is given that A equals this and B equals this. What is the product of these two? Meaning we have to multiply. We have to do this multiplied by 4x minus 2. And you could write it in any order you want. The product of A and B, you could write it in any order you want. If I wrote it in this order, let's go ahead and multiply it. -2 times 4x is -2 times 4 is -8. X, this is x squared and x1, which makes x3. Then -2x squared times -2 is positive 4x squared. 8x times 4x would be 32x squared. 8x times -2 is -16x. Then -3 times 4x is -12x. And -3 times 2 is +6. Now let's combine like terms. -8x to the third stays the same. 4 plus 32x squared is 36x squared. -2x minus 12x is -28x plus 6. And this right here would be our final answer. Now let's try this again. If f equals this and g equals that, what is the product of f and g? It does not matter the order that you multiply these two in. I'm just going to do the binomial times the trinomial to be the opposite of what we did before. Just because I want to show you that it doesn't matter, you will get the right answer regardless of which one you wrote first. They asked for the product of both of these, so we have to make sure we multiply both of them. 3x squared times 2x squared is 6x to the fourth. 3x squared times 6x is 3 times 6 is 18. x2x is x to the third. And 3x squared times -5 is -15x squared. Then 4 times 2x squared is 8x squared. 4 times 6x is 24x. And 4 times -5 is -20. And now let's combine like terms. We have the 6x to the fourth. 18x to the third. There's no other x to the third, so it would just be plus 18x to the third. -15 plus 8 would be, let me just double check that in my calculator, -7x squared plus 24x minus 20. I just want to make sure this is good. 3x squared times 2x squared is 6x to the fourth. 3 times 6 is 18, x2, x3. 3 times 5 is -15x squared. 4 times 2 is 8x squared. 4 times 6 is 24x, and 4 times -5. Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure it was correct. And that looks good to me. That is multiplying a binomial by a trinomial. Now let's look at number 7. When the equation 5 minus bx equals bx plus 2 is solved for x, The result is, so we want to solve for x. All right, let's see. I want to get my x's on one side, so I'm going to minus this bx. If I have a negative 1bx minus 1bx, that's going to give me negative 2bx equals 2. Now I want to get rid of my 5, so I'm going to subtract 5 on both sides. I will get negative 2bx equals 2 minus 5 is negative 3. Now I'm trying to get x by itself, so I'm going to divide out the negative 2 in the b, divide negative 2 in b. I'm going to see if I can divide negative 3 by negative 2. And that ends up just giving me 3 over 2 and leave the b on the bottom. And this is my final answer. And we have a very, very similar problem like that in the next one. When the equation c minus ax equals ax minus 2 is solved for x in terms. Oh, this should be a oh yeah, no, it's fine. So I need to get rid of this ax. So I'm going to subtract ax to both sides. That will give me 6 minus, this is a 1 and a 1. Negative 1 minus 1 is negative 2. Ax equals negative 2. Now to get rid of the 6, I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. That gives me negative 2ax equals negative 8. Now I just want x left, so I'm going to divide out the negative 2 and the a. Divide negative 2 and a. Negative 8 divided by negative 2 is 4, but I need to leave a on the bottom. And this is my final answer. All right, let's look at number 9. Determine the degree and the non-zero coefficients. So the coefficients would be 4, 3, and 5. These are all the coefficients. Negative 5. Coefficients are any number in front of x, which is 4, 3, and negative 5. Then the number that is without an x is your constant. And the degree is whatever the highest exponent is, which here the highest exponent is 3. And let's look at number 10. The degree, again, degree is the highest exponent. Our highest exponent here is 3. And our coefficients are 4, negative 15, 5, and negative 1. These are all our coefficients. We do not have any constants here because we do not have any number that doesn't have a letter. All right, let's go look at number 11. Solve. We can do this. Since x is not a part of the fraction, we do not need to make the denominators the same. Let's just solve as if these were regular numbers. We're going to minus 4 over 5x. We're going to minus 4 over 5x. So 3 over 5 minus 4 over 5. And that gives us negative 1 over 5x plus 1 over 3 is less than negative 1 over 3. Now, to get rid of this 1 over 3, I'm going to subtract from both sides. When you subtract negative 1 over 3 from negative 1 over 3, that does not become 0. That is negative 2 over 3. And now I'm going to divide both sides by negative 1 over 5. Divide by negative 1 over 5. Because I'm dividing by a negative, I have to flip my symbol. And let's see what this gets us. Negative 2 over 3 divided by negative 1 over 5. And I get 10 over 3. Perfect. And let's look at number 12. What is the solution? All right, let's solve it. Let's get rid of this minus 1x. Let's minus 1x. We get 2. 4 over 9 minus 1 gets us negative 5 over 9x is greater than or equal to 4. To get rid of the 2, I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. I get negative 5 over 9x is greater than or equal to 2. Then I'm going to divide by negative 5 over 9. Divide by negative 5 over 9. I am dividing by a negative, so I need to flip my inequality symbol. And 2 divided by negative 5 over 9 is negative 18 over 5, which is answer choice D. All right, let's look at number 13. We want to get this fraction alone so we can unlock the x. So first I need to get rid of the 9. I'm going to subtract 9 by both sides. I get 5, 2x minus 4 over 3 equals 14 minus 9 is 5. Now I don't want that divided by 3, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 3. I'll get 5 times 2x minus 4 equals 15. To get rid of the 5, I'm going to divide both sides by 5. I get 2x. Oh no, let's not do it that way. You could do it that way, but I'm going to do it the way that we're used to doing it in class. The way that we're used to doing it in class is to distribute. 5 times 2x is 10x. 5 times negative 4 is negative 20 equals 15. To get rid of minus 20, I'm going to add 20. That gives me 10x equals 35. Divide by 10. I get x equals 3.5. Question 14 says, which value of x makes this true? Meaning, you could technically just plug in each value of x here and see which one makes it true. This calculator here doesn't do it like the one in school. Oh wait, maybe it does. Let's see. 0 stores x. Yeah, it always makes an, let me see. X stores 0. Yeah, I don't know why it doesn't work here. But anyway, I'm just going to physically type it in. So I have the fraction. Instead of x, I'm going to put 0 minus 3 over 4 plus 2 over 3. And let's see if it gives me 17 over 12. No, let's try the next one. 8 minus 3, because 8 is x in choice B. 4 plus 2 over 3. Does it give me this left side, which is 17 over 12? No. Let's try the next. C says x is 6, so let's try 6 minus 3 over 4 plus 2 over 3. 17 over 12, so 6 is the correct answer. All right, number 15, let's distribute. 4 times y is 4y. 4 times negative 3 is negative 12, is greater than or equal to 4 times 2y is 8y. 4 times 1 is 4. Now I'm going to bring the 8y to the other side, so I'm going to subtract 8y. I get negative 4y minus 12 is less than or equal to 4. To get rid of the minus 12, I'm going to add 12 to both sides. That will give me negative 4y is greater than or equal to 16. I do not want that negative 4 there, so I'm going to divide both sides by negative 4. I get y, flip the symbol, negative 4. You have to flip the symbol since we are dividing by that negative 4. Now we have a very, very similar question for number 16. Let's look at it. We don't even need to distribute on the left side. Just leave that alone. On the right side, 2 times p is 2p. 2 times 5 is 10. All right. Let's get rid of the 2p. Let's subtract 2p to both sides. We get 2p plus 2 is less than 10. Subtract 2 from both sides. I get 2p is less than 8. Divide by 2. P is less than 4. We do not need to flip our symbol since we did not divide or multiply by a negative number. (17) Very, very similar. Let's try this one. Leave the left side alone, 3x plus 2. On the right side, let's distribute. 5 times x is 5x. 5 times negative 4 is negative 20. I'm going to subtract 5x. I get negative 2x plus 2 is less than or equal to negative 20. To get rid of a positive 2, we subtract 2. We get negative 2x is less than or equal to negative 22. Because we are dividing by this negative 2, we are going to have to flip our inequality symbol and make it a positive 11, which is answer choice D. All right, number 18, we only have to distribute on the left side 3 times x. 3 times 3 is 9, is less than or equal to 5x minus 3. To get rid of this positive 5x, we are going to subtract 5x on both sides. That gives us negative 2x plus 9 is less than or equal to negative 3. To get rid of the plus 9, we need to subtract 9. So we will get negative 2x is less than or equal to negative 12. Divide by negative 2. X is, ooh, we got to flip the symbol since we divided by a negative 2. 6. X is greater than or equal to 6. Now, 19 and 20 are throwbacks from the past. Determine if the product of these are rational or irrational. Product means to multiply. So we are going to find out, is 3 square root of 2 times 8 square root of 18 rational or irrational? Remember, rational numbers are numbers that can be whole numbers, they could be negative, they could be fractions, or they could be decimals that end or repeat. Whereas irrational numbers, the decimal does not end and the decimal does not repeat. It cannot be written as a fraction. All right, so when I multiplied these together, as you've seen me do in my calculator, I got 144, which is rational because it is a whole number, or you could say because it can be written as a fraction. And I want to know kind of the same for number 20. Mrs. Fox in her class asked her class, is the sum means to add, of 4.2 plus radical 2 rational or irrational? Let's see, 4 plus 0.2 plus square root of 2 is 5.614 dot dot dot, which is irrational because the decimal doesn't end or repeat. Or you could even say because it cannot be written as a fraction, meaning Patrick is, what did Patrick say? Patrick answered that the sum would be original, so Patrick is incorrect. All right. Number 21. An equation is this, which is these are the solutions. Because this is multiple choice, I could just plug x in for each of these and see which one is true. You can do this straight on our calculator at school, but let's just do it here. 4 instead of x, I'm going to put answer choice A, which is 8.7 minus 7. And let me try the other side. 0.3. A says that x equals 8.7, so that's what I'm putting in. And both those sides do not equal, so the answer cannot be A. Now for B, we are saying that x is 8.3. I'm going to change this 8.7 to 8.3. And let's see if both these sides would be equal now. In the calculator at school, you could just type this all the way in, but these two are equal, so that is good. All right, let's do 22. 22, solve this algebraically. And then we got to show work. Negative 2.4 times x is negative 2.4x. Negative 2.4 times 1.4 is negative 3.36. equals, leave the 6.8x alone, minus the 22.68, since none of those are like terms. All right, let's bring x to one side. I am going to subtract 6.8x, subtract 6.8x. Negative 2.4 minus 6.8, that gives me negative 9.2x minus 3.36 equals negative 22.68. This minus 3.36 got to go to the other side, so I'm going to add it. All right, let's see. Negative 22.68 plus 3.36, we get negative 19.32. We're dividing by negative 9.2. If this was an inequality and we were dividing by negative 9.2, we would have to flip our inequality symbol. And we get 2.1. All right, let's look at 22. Which inequality is equivalent to this? Oh, this one's an easy one. Let's add 5 to both sides. I get 2 over 3x and 16. Divide by 2 over 3. Since we are dividing by a positive 2 over 3, we do not flip our symbol. And we get 24. And let's look at the next one. Add 6 to both sides. We get 3 over 2x is less than 15. Divide by 3 over 2. We get x. We do not need to flip our inequality symbol since neither of those numbers were since the numbers that we were dividing by were not negative. And we got positive 10. All right, 25 is another inequality, just a longer one. Let's do this one. Leave the 3x alone. 4 times x is 4x. 4 times 1 is 4. Now let's combine like terms. 3x plus 4x is 7x. Plus 4 is less than. 7 times x is 7x. 7 times negative 1 is negative 7. Now I'm going to subtract 7x from both sides. When I do that, my x's cancel out, and I am left with 4 is less than negative 7. Is 4 less than negative 7? Definitely not. Negative will always be less than a positive, so that is false, making your answer no solution. All right, and let's look at this next one. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2 minus 3x. Negative 2x minus 3x is negative 5x minus 2. 4 times 2x is 8x. 4 times negative 3 is negative 12 plus 7. So I have 8x minus 5. I do not want my x's on both sides, so I'm going to subtract this 8x. I will get negative 13x minus 2 is greater than negative 5. Add 2 to both sides. I get negative 13x is greater than negative 5 plus 2 is 3. Divide by negative 13. When you are dividing by a negative number, you need to flip your inequality symbol. 3 divided by negative 13 is just negative 3 over 13, sadly. No way to simplify that. Let me just double make sure this is good. Negative 2 times x, negative 2x. Negative 2, negative 3. Because sometimes you get like, oh no, is a fraction supposed to be an answer? Just double check your work and make sure it makes sense. Yeah. Alrighty, up to our last two problems, which are word problems. Let's tackle them. 27. A store sells almonds for $4.99 a pound, walnuts for $6.50, and cashews for $3.75. Brian has $55 to spend. If he has $55 to spend, that means he could spend equal to $55, but he's also allowed to he's also allowed to do less than it. All right, now let's look at this one. If X represents the number of almonds, all right, so almonds are 4.99, so I'm going to put 4.99X plus walnuts are 6.50. And let's see what it tells us about walnuts. He wants to buy 3 more pounds of walnuts. So I'm going to put 3 plus X. And then cashews, which are 3.75. And it says directly he plans to buy 3 pounds of cashews. All right, now let's solve this. Leave the 4.99X alone. 6.50 times 3 is 19.5. 650 times X is 650X. And 3.75 times 3 is 11.25, which is less than or equal to 55. Let's combine like terms. 4.99 plus 6.5 is 11.49. And then 19.5 plus 11.25 is 30.75, which is less than or equal to 55. Let's subtract out the 30.75, which is he's definitely going to be spending. So then we have 11.49 is less than or equal to 24.25. Divide the 11.49 and we get X is less than or equal to 2.1105 ... He cannot, well, technically you can buy decimal numbers of almonds, but they want to know the maximum number of whole pounds of almonds he could buy, which would be 2. So he can buy up to 2 whole pounds. Because he can't buy 3, because then he won't have enough money. Alrighty, and let's look at this very last problem. A store sells peppers for $1.50, cucumbers for 99 cents, and carrots for $1.25. Tasha has $12 to spend, which means she has less than or equal to 12. She plans to buy 1 more pound of cucumbers and peppers. She also plans to buy 2 pounds of carrots, and X represents peppers. Well, peppers were $1.50 plus cucumbers were 0.99, and it says she plans to buy 1 more pound of cucumbers and peppers. So that would be 1 plus X. And then she plans to buy 2 pounds of carrots. So we have to put 2 right next to the price of carrots. So this would be 1.50X plus 0.99 times 1, which is 0.99. 0.99 times X is 0.99X. 1.25 times 2 is 2.50, which is less than or equal to 12. 1.5X plus 0.99X would be 2.49X. 0.99 plus 2.5 is 3.49, is less than or equal to 12. Let's subtract out the 3.49. We get 2.49X is less than or equal to 12 minus 3.49 is 8.51. Divide the 2.49, divide 2.49. I get X. I do not need to flip my symbol since it was not a negative. X is less than or equal to 3.417 ... And we want to know the max number of whole peppers, so max 3 pounds. Can't buy 4 pounds because they won't have enough money. And this sums up our lesson on Unit 2, Equations and Inequalities Review. Remember that we could end up having stuff that comes back from Unit 1, like rational and irrational and the product of a binomial times a trinomial.